The mittens I'm wearing here are very simple knit. They were designed with a beginning knitter in mind. The pattern for these mittens is called My First Fingerless Mittens. The mittens are knit in a flat piece, and then they have an invisible seam up the side. So in this video I will talk about how to work the increase on the thumb gusset. I will also talk about how to do a backward loop cast on right above the thumb, how to bind off properly, and how to do a seamless knit knitting your garter stitch cuff along with the stockinette stitch section of the hand. The thumb of the mitten is worked by creating a thumb gusset, and you can see here where we increase to shape for the thumb, and I'll demonstrate how to do that. I have here, it's the same exact mitten, I'm just working it in a different color. We're going to knit to the marker. We'll work a make one left increase, make one L on your pattern, and then we'll work to the next marker, and we'll work a make one R, which is a make one right increase, and I'll demonstrate how to do that. The pattern can be knit on straight needles. I prefer to use circular needles, in which case you just ignore this cord and you treat your needles as if they were straight needles. So knit to the first marker. When you get to the marker, you'll slip your marker to your right needle. Okay, I'm going to slip my marker. And to work your make one left increase, notice this horizontal strand of yarn between your two needles. We're going to lift this strand using your left needle. You're going to lift the strand from the front, like so. I'll do that again. Use the tip of your left needle to lift that strand from the front. Once it's on your needle, you will knit into the back of that lifted strand. And that is your make one L, or make one left increase. Knit to your next marker. And again, here's the horizontal strand you can see right here between the two needles. For your make one R, your make one right increase, you will use your left needle tip and you're going to pick that strand up from behind. Do that again. Just pick that strand up right from behind. And this time you're going to knit into the front of that stitch. And that is your make one R. Slip your marker and knit to the end of the row. I've reached the point in the pattern where I'm ready to bind off the thumb stitches. So your pattern, before you bind off the thumb stitches, should look like this. You still have your markers on. Right now I'm working the left hand, so I have more stitches on the left side. So when you bind off, we're actually going to be binding off on the wrong side row, so you'll turn your work to the wrong side. You're going to purl to your marker. We're going to bind off the 9 thumb stitches knitwise. We'll bind them off knitwise, and then we will purl to the end of the row. So I will purl to the marker and then demonstrate how to bind off knitwise those thumb stitches. Okay, so when you get to your marker, you can remove the marker. You can take that right off there. So to bind off the 9 stitches, you're going to put your yarn to the back of your work. You'll knit the first stitch, knit the second stitch, and now you're binding off 1 by lifting that stitch up and over. Let's bind off 1. Knit another one, another stitch, bind off 2, and continue doing that, knit till you have 2 on the needle. Lift it up and over, that's binding off 3, binding off 4, lift it up and over, That's 5, 6, 7, 8. You'll remove that marker, and then your last one, bind off, is 9. You'll move your yarn back to the front, purl. So on the next row, the pattern instructs you to knit to the thumb, knit to the bound off stitches, and we're just going to cast on one stitch over them. And what that one stitch is just that little connector right there between the thumb gusset. So it's very easy to do. You'll knit to this stitch here right before the bound off thumb stitches. And then the one stitch that we're going to bind on, we're going to use a backwards loop cast on. So I've knit to the bound off thumb stitches. To do a backwards loop cast on, you'll take your yarn and just put your thumb underneath and over, so you have your yarn around your thumb, and you'll take your needle and go underneath and just slide a stitch onto your needle. And that's all that is. So I'll demonstrate that again. Hold your yarn, take your thumb underneath, so your yarn is around your thumb, slide your needle under, and slide a stitch onto your needle. From this point, you now need to connect the two, so rejoin them by continuing to knit, to knit to the end of the row. I'm at the point where I'm ready to bind off all of my stitches at the top of the fingerless mitten, and we'll bind off the same as we did for the thumb area. I'll knit 2 stitches until I have 2 on my right needle. I'll take the first stitch and lift it over the second stitch, and you want to bind off loosely. You don't want it to pull too tight. So very simply knit 2 stitches. Take your first stitch, lift it up and over the second stitch, and then you'll repeat that. You'll knit another stitch until you have 2 stitches on your right needle. Take the first stitch, lift it up and over the second stitch, and you'll continue to do that across the row until all of your stitches are bound off. I've bound off all the stitches. I'm ready to seam the mitten together. So your fingerless mitten should look like this, a little square with the thumb sticking out. And we're going to fold the wrong sides together, and we're going to do an invisible seam up the side. So I've threaded my needle, and for the garter stitch area, that's your cuff, that's your garter stitch, you'll see all these bumps, and you see rows of bumps, and I like to think of them as smiles and frowns. And as we seam up the garter stitch area, we're going to be picking up the little frowns, the very last frown in each row. So that would be here. See, these are the frowns right here. These are the little smiles. So I left a piece of yarn from when I cast on, but if you used a different cast on, you can just cut a long piece of yarn to begin. You're going to begin by coming up into the first little frown on the right side, and then to the one on this side. Come to the end of the row and find the very last little bump there. That's the one you'll pick up, and you're going to go back and forth doing this. So now the next row on the right side is this row here, and I'm looking for that last bump. The next row on this side, the very last bump. And you don't want to pull it too tight, just gently pull it so it draws the mitt together. In this row, I'm finding that last bump. And you'll continue doing this until you reach the top of your garter stitch cuff. So I've I've seamed up the garter stitch band, and I'm ready to seam the stockinette section of the fingerless mitt. So if you look very closely, you can see that each row of stitches, they look like V's. They look like the letter V, little V-shaped stitches. And on this side too, you'll see each row of stitches, you have a row of, they look like the letter V. On this side, I'm going to go onto the left side of this V-shaped stitch, and I'm going to pick up the horizontal bar in between the stitch. And then you'll come to your left side, and you'll see this first row of V-shaped stitches, and directly across you're going to pick up the horizontal bar that is just on the right side of the V-shaped stitch. What you do not want to do is to go into the center of the V. You want to make sure you're on the right side of the V for it to have a seamless join. And you'll continue to go back and forth and gently pull your yarn as you go. So on this side you'll find that V-shaped stitch, and you'll go onto the left side of it, pick up that horizontal bar right there, and then back to the left side. Here's my V-shaped stitch, and I'm going to pick up that horizontal bar. And I'll continue to do that until I reach the top of the stockinette stitch section of the mitt. So I've just completed the seaming for the mitt. I completed the top part of the cuff the same as you seam the garter stitch part of the cuff, and that goes on the side. The seam is on the side. It's an invisible seam, and that completes the first fingerless mittens. So I hope you enjoy knitting these mittens, and you can find the pattern at the link below. Thanks for watching the video.